Whoa. Whoa.
In Dimona, did Iran strike the very brains behind Israel's secretive nuclear program? Commentators are asking whether Tehran used pinpoint intelligence to knock on a hidden Dimona bunker. Open-source intelligence analysis has revealed the exact coordinates of the Dimona impact site. Tehran has framed the entire operation as direct payback for the attack on Natanz, but Iranian officials remain deliberately silent on any claims of scientist kills. Officials insist there were no radiation leaks after the bombing. Yet behind closed doors, is Israel scared of Iran's firepower? Hours after Iranian missiles slammed into the Israeli town of Dimona, a new and unsettling revelation emerged, pushing this strike from a routine escalation into a potential turning point in the nuclear shadow war. Open-source intelligence accounts on social media quickly geolocated the Dimona impact site, publishing maps and coordinates that allowed the world to see exactly where Iran's missile had landed, according to early reports. With those coordinates in hand, analysts swiftly began to speculate whether the missile had struck a shelter or bunker possibly used by Israeli nuclear scientists, igniting debate over whether Iran had deliberately gone after human assets. These developments were reported by Defense Security Asia on March 22, which cited multiple OSINT accounts and visual evidence, turning what started as scattered posts into a semi-coherent narrative watched by regional observers. According to the outlet, OSINT accounts then flooded social media platforms, repeatedly asking whether Iran had used precise intelligence to hit that specific spot in Dimona rather than firing blindly into the desert. However, other analysts cited by the same reporting warned that the apparent precision could be coincidence, later weaponized by information war narratives on both sides to exaggerate Iran's accuracy and Israel's vulnerability. OSINT sleuths eventually locked onto the coordinates 31.066010 degrees north, 35.038699 degrees east as the exact impact point inside Dimona, fixing the strike on a specific structure rather than a vague urban area on the map. So far, there has been no independent proof that Israeli nuclear scientists were present at the impacted site, leaving the most dramatic claims firmly in the realm of speculation rather than confirmed battlefield fact. Iran has not confirmed any strike on Israeli scientists and has instead officially labeled the attack as a calibrated response to the hit on Natanz, keeping its messaging focused on strategic retaliation rather than targeted assassinations. Mainstream outlets described the aftermath as smashed public buildings and damaged civilian infrastructure, but carefully avoided drawing any direct link between the site and Israel's nuclear program. Israeli and global media coverage largely stuck to the safer framing of an attack on the town of Dimona, pointedly not calling it a strike on a nuclear research hub, even as commentators hinted at the symbolism of the location. Official briefings from authorities insisted that the Negev Nuclear Research Center itself suffered zero physical damage, portraying the facility as untouched behind its security perimeter despite the nearby explosions. International monitors reported no radiation leaks or anomalies in the area, strongly suggesting that only the surrounding urban belt was actually struck, even if the psychological impact reached all the way into Israel's nuclear command circles. Iran launched a massive coordinated attack on Israel on March 21, with direct impacts reported across multiple cities in the south and intense alerts sounding throughout the country. Iranian missiles made several direct impacts in the southern Israeli towns of Dimona and Arad, shattering the sense of security in communities that sit near Israel's most sensitive nuclear infrastructure. The strikes caused extensive damage to Arad city center, with rescue services and local officials describing collapsed facades, shattered homes and streets littered with debris in early reports. According to the IRGC, citing Israeli media, the attacks killed at least 20 people and injured some 200 in Arad alone, turning a quiet town into one of the deadliest scenes of this phase of the war. Subsequently, the main hospital in Arad declared a state of emergency as it struggled to treat the surge of casualties, with doctors and nurses working around the clock to stabilize the wounded. Drone footage released by an emergency medical service showed the grim scene of the strike in Arad from above, revealing mangled buildings, emergency vehicles and crowds of rescuers racing through the rubble. One missile carrying a conventional warhead slammed into an open area between several apartment buildings, sending shockwaves through the neighborhood and spraying shrapnel deep into nearby homes. That Iranian missile reportedly carried a 450-kilogram conventional warhead, a size powerful enough to carve a huge crater into the earth and tear through reinforced concrete structures. In Dimona, over 40 people were hurt when an Iranian ballistic missile impacted the area, with injuries ranging from shrapnel wounds to serious trauma caused by collapsing walls and flying debris. A missile directly struck a building in Dimona, according to rescue services quoted by the Times of Israel, leaving residents trapped inside and forcing search and rescue teams into a race against time. Subsequently, Israel said it was opening a formal investigation into why its air defenses failed to intercept the missiles that hit Arad and Dimona, a rare admission that its shield did not perform as promised. The Israeli army said its systems did engage the incoming missiles but that some interceptors failed mid-flight, a technical breakdown that allowed direct hits on populated areas, according to the Times of Israel. Apart from the strikes on Dimona and Arad, Iran also targeted the southern port city of Eilat, although local officials reported no injuries there and said most residents had already taken shelter. Reacting to the latest barrage, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu described it as a difficult evening, acknowledging the scale of the attack even as he vowed that Israel would continue to hit back. Netanyahu said, and I quote, "This is a very difficult evening in the battle for our future. A short time ago, I spoke with the mayor of Arad, Yair Mayan, and asked him to convey, on behalf of all the citizens of Israel, our prayers for the peace of the wounded. I instructed the Director General of my ministry to provide all necessary assistance, along with all government ministries. I am strengthening the emergency and rescue forces currently operating in the field, and I call on everyone to obey the Home Front Command's instructions. We are determined to continue to strike our enemies on all fronts." Iran openly said it targeted Dimona as a response to an earlier strike on its Natanz nuclear complex, framing the attack as direct retaliation in a tit-for-tat battle over nuclear facilities. Dimona houses Israel's main nuclear research center, long believed to underpin its undeclared nuclear arsenal, and Iranian officials had previously threatened to strike it if Israel hit nuclear sites on Iranian soil. However, the IDF publicly insisted it was not responsible for the March 21 attack on Iran's Natanz nuclear site, denying any role even as Tehran pointed the finger at Israel and vowed retaliation. The attacks on Dimona and Arad were part of Iran's 73rd wave of Operation True Promise 4, according to the military statement. IRGC said, and I quote, "The south and north of the occupied Palestinian territories were targeted in the 73rd wave of Operation True Promise 4, under the code Yahidar Kama, in tribute to the bravery of air defense martyrs. The strikes were carried out using missile and drone systems of the IRGC Aerospace Force. Military installations and security centers in Arad, Dimona, Eilat, Beersheva, and Kiryat Gat in the south were struck following the collapse of the Israeli Army's air defense systems. U.S. bases in the region, Ali al-Salem, Minhad, and al-Dafra, were also precisely hit using Fatah, Qadr, and Ahmad missile systems, along with loitering drones. According to field reports, more than 200 killed and wounded were recorded in the early hours of the attack. Israeli security officials have reportedly increased pressure on journalists and eyewitnesses to censor damage and casualty reports. It is necessary to commend the efforts of Hezbollah fighters in defending Lebanon's territorial integrity and opening an intense and high-pressure front against northern and central areas of the occupied territories. These victories are congratulated to the Lebanese people and Muslims of the region. The deteriorating and chaotic conditions faced by residents of the occupied territories, exacerbated by the war policies of Netanyahu's government, are becoming evident, especially in areas where nuclear and military facilities are located near civilian populations. The dynamics of the war are rapidly shifting, and the Israeli army's control over the defense of the occupied territories is said to be collapsing. Apart from Dimona, Iran said it also targeted the Tel Aviv area, the nearby city of Rishon LeZion, and several U.S. bases, widening the map of the conflict far beyond a single nuclear-linked location. Fuel depots at Ben Gurion Airport were reportedly targeted during the 71st wave of Iranian attacks, aiming to cripple Israel's logistics, refueling capacity and ability to sustain prolonged air operations. According to the IRGC, U.S. bases in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Bahrain were struck using a mix of drones and heavy missiles, signaling that American forces across the Gulf are now firmly in the firing line.